Okay, it is 6:15, so I'm going to call the meeting to order of the special public hearing of the Champaign County Board. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Store.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Store.
That's what I was afraid you said. Present.
Straub.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Taylor. Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Vintage Theronot.
Here.
Wolken. Wolken. Carter.
Here.
Cowart.
Present.
Esri. Esri. Portato.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Harper.
Here.
King.
Here.
Lockshin.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Michaels.
Present.
Casalacqua.
Here.
Paul. Paul. Rodriguez.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
Okay, there is a quorum present, and I call the meeting. Would the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on October 12, 2021, 6:15 p.m. via Zoom in the Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Winton Street, Urbana, Illinois, for the purpose of receiving public comment on the 2021 reapportionment plan map.
Okay, thank you. And I need to read pursuant to the governor's executive order establishing a pandemic disaster in the state of Illinois that covers the county of Champaign, and county executive's determination that holding this meeting in person is not prudent at this time due to health concerns with rising numbers of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations being reported in the county. This meeting will be held remotely via Zoom. Public comment will also be taken remotely. The public may watch the meeting live or via recording on the county's YouTube channel. And just for the record, I am at Brookings tonight, and also Kyle Patterson, the county board chair, is here tonight. Can I get approval of the agenda, please?
This is Chris. Oh, excuse me.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Straub?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Store.
Present, or here. Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Vintage Theronot.
Yes.
Wolken. Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri. Portato.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Passalacqua,
Yes.
Hall, Rodriguez,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, we have an agenda. The only item on the agenda for this meeting is to take public comment on proposed 2021 reapportionment maps. We have 2 additional maps to consider. And I do not, oh, there is an attendee. So would any member of the public like to speak about the maps tonight and talk to the board about their comments about the maps? It looks like we only have 1 member of the public tonight. Ms. Pritchard, did you have anything to say about the maps this evening? You can, if you want to raise your hand, let's see, I can unmute you. Hold on a second.
Okay,
There you go.
can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, yay. Well, hi, everyone. Yes, I just think, I like what you did, Darlene, with your trying to be, have the maps be more fair, and not just biased to the Democrats. I know, you outnumber us, but I think there's a lot of people in our community who really feel strongly about this, and I'm here to support my fellow GOP. And I think as a community, I think it's important that in the whole state and the whole country that we're honest with ourselves and that we present maps that are true to the census numbers. And
Okay,
that's all
thank
I'm
you.
going to say. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any other attendees this evening for this meeting. So this is going to be a very short public hearing this evening. And I will call this meeting adjourned. So if you want to stay on the Zoom, you can join the meeting of the County Board Committee of the Whole, which is going to be starting at 6:30, or you can get off the Zoom and come back on. It's the same link for the next meeting. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, it's now 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Champaign County Board Committee of the Whole. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Vantage Therina,
Present.
Wolken, Carter,
Here.
Cowart,
Present.
Esri, Fortato,
Here.
Goss,
Here.
Harper,
Here.
King,
Here.
Lakshan,
Here.
McGuire, Michaels,
Present.
Pesalakwa,
Here.
Paul,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Storr,
Here.
Straub,
Here.
Summers,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Thorsland,
Here.
Patterson.
Here. All right. Could I have an approval of the agenda?
So move forward.
Straub, second. Is there any discussion of the agenda? Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Finish Theranon. Yes. Wolken. Carter.
Yes.
Coward.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lakshan.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Pasalakwa.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Store.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for the August 23rd legislative budget hearing, the August 24th legislative budget hearing, and the September 14th regular meeting. If there's no objections, I'd like to entertain a motion to pass these together in an omnibus.
So moved, Harper.
Okay. Harper and Michaels. Is there any discussion? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Finish Theranon. Yes. Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lakshan.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Oh, I see McGuire's here.
Yes.
Pasalakwa.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Store.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes. Next on the agenda is public participation. If there's any members of the public that would wish to participate, please raise your hand at this time. All right.
Before Patsy.
All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to communications. As you can see in the packet, there are a number of communication items from, we have one from the Farm Bureau, from the Sangamon Valley Public Water District, and draft use of the ARPA funds from the Chamber of Commerce. Today, Mr. Goss, did you want to speak on one of those?
No, I had something for just regular communication.
Okay. Yeah, and the way this is kind of, I feel like it's usually not quite arranged like this. First, does anybody have any discussion of the items that were featured in the packet? Mr. Storr.
Thank you. The Champaign County Chamber of Commerce proposed a number of uses for the of ARPA funds, and this was discussed earlier when we were having a special committee meeting. Somebody drew my attention to the Sangamon Valley Public Water District request, and this is to provide water, as I understand it, for those people whose wells were affected by the leak from the Manlove natural gas field. And there's apparently, as I understand it, there are some state funds available for this, but they haven't been released. And there is some confusion about why they haven't been released. And apparently there's some intervention needed by some of the representatives from that area. But I have no further comment on those two items.
Ms. Furtado?
Yeah, just real quick, I had a great conversation with the Farm Bureau about their cover crop proposal, and I'm glad to see that they sent it in for everybody to look at. And I just wanted to mention that in the budget, we're considering forwarding, there's $2 million for water projects that are currently in there. And both A and B would be eligible under that. And there's $1 million in support for small businesses. And I think some of the stuff that the Chamber of Commerce proposed would be eligible for that. So as we go forward and trying to figure out how to allocate that money, like getting it into the budget is like step, I don't know, 1A. Then we got to figure out, well, then what are we going to do with it once? But I did want to mention that we did put money into the budget that could potentially maybe not address everything that they've proposed, but that would be applicable to those categories.
Mr. Thorson?
Yeah, I don't know if this is exactly factual, but going back to the northward expansion of the Sangamon Valley water, from what I understand, there is state money for that too. There's state money allocated. It needs to be released. And what I heard was the representative, Mr. Rose, who's out there, needs to write a letter requesting this from the governor to be released. And that hasn't happened yet. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if that's the exact mechanism, but I'm sure that both reps from D1, which is my old neck of the woods, know Chapin and probably I have his number in my phone. And maybe a simple request from Jim or Jacob to ask if this is true of Mr. Rose would be helpful. And if it is, maybe it would spurn some that. I'd love to see that happen, although I think people's gas should probably pay for half of it. But I don't know that will ever happen. But it's not a good situation. Houses were developed up there on top of the gas field. I'm not sure how long people thought that wouldn't happen, but it'd be nice to rectify what is now a problem for people that live there for whatever reason. And it needs to be fixed. I don't want to spend all of what we've allocated to the ARPA to fix a problem brought on by a commercial enterprise. But if there's money from the state to help with that, then we should do what we can to get that done. So I reach out to the reps for my old neck of the woods to see if they can dig into this a little deeper, please. Thanks.
All right, does anybody else have any comments on the three communication items? And if not, we'll move on to normal communications. I assume that's why Mr. Goss has his hand raised.
Yeah, that's correct. I will touch base only slightly to say the letter has been sent at least once, if not twice, requesting that funding. So, and it's been sent by, as I understand it, by Mr. Calkins and Mr. Rose. I will confirm that and get the copies of those letters and share those if I can get those. I just wanted to make the board aware, if they were not aware, Jody Wilkins' father passed away last week, and so that's why Jody's down in Florida. So I wanted to make the rest of the board aware. So if you wanted to drop her a text or a note, he'd been battling for a while, and there hadn't been anything put out there. I'm not sure. I didn't see an obituary in the paper. I'm not saying it didn't exist. I just didn't see it. So I wanted to make the board aware of that. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else who has any communications for the board? So next on the agenda is the Finance Committee. Chair Furtado.
All right, first up is a budget amendment 21-005 or 00053, Fund 080, General Corporate Department 036, Public Defender, increased appropriations $4,275, increased revenue $0. Reason based on current spending, January through September 2021. Additional approximate funds will be needed for October, November, December 2021 in the following: office supplies, 525 month daily operation, court reporting, 100-month professional services, $800 month to cover cost of interpreter services for attorney-client appointments. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Taylor.
All right, Taylor, and then I saw Mary King second. Discussion. Don't see anybody. If the clerk could call the roll.
Vanich Therna. Yes. Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalakwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right. Next up, budget amendment 21-00054, Fund 075, Regional Planning Commission, Department, Urbana, ARPA Management, increased appropriation $71,335, increased revenue $71,335. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Carter.
Carter, and I saw Mr. McGuire second.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Vanich Therna. Yes. Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri, Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalakwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, budget amendment 21-00057, Fund 080, General Corporate Department 127, Veterans Assistant Commission, increased appropriation $7,305, increased revenue $7,305. Reason donations received in fiscal year 2021 and request for appropriation to extend benefits to veterans. Do I have a motion? Ms. Michaels moved, Mr. Thorsland second. Any comment? Mr. McGuire.
Thank you. I just think we should thank the people that made the donations. I'd like to read their names if that's okay. The donations were made by Disabled American Veterans, $5,000, American Legion Post 24, $524, American Legion Riders, $781, and the Laborers Local 703 for $1,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Appreciate that, Jim. Seeing none, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Vanich Therna. Yes. Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes, please.
Pesalekwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, budget transfer 21-00003, Fund 080, General Corporate Department 030, Circuit Clerk, amount $56,700. Reason, this is a requested transfer from full-time personnel to pay for replacement of office chairs and for new headsets and microphones. Originally, this was an ARPA request, which I withdrew to make this purchase from our budget. And there's attached information that you have all seen previously in an ARPA packet. Do I have a motion? Ms. Lakshin? I
So
saw-
moved.
All right, sorry, I Ms. Lakshin, and I don't know who and Jen Straub, second. I'm sorry, I heard somebody else say it, but I couldn't identify the voice. All right, Mr. McGuire?
I'd like to recuse myself from the vote, please, in the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGuire. Any other discussion? Seeing none, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Manage Therna,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Coward,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalekwa, Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, there's two resolutions authorizing acceptance of an agreement of grants for the county clerk. Are folks okay if we do both of these together? All right, I don't see anybody saying no. Resolution authorizing an acceptance agreement between Champaign County and the Illinois State Board of Elections for the 2022 voter registration state grant, and resolution authorizing an acceptance agreement between Champaign County and the Illinois State Board of Elections for the 2022 Help America Vote Act HAVA federal grant. Do I have a motion? Mr. Thorsland and Ms. Straub, second. Discussion. Seeing none, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Manage Therna,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Coward,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalekwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, there's treasurer monthly reports for June and July and auditor's monthly report for September on the website. Does anybody, it looks like Mr. Harper would like to speak to somebody, one of these folks.
Thank you, Stephanie. My question is, and I know CJ inherited a tremendous mess. Just recently in the paper, there's another list of delinquents that I know have been paid, because my son was included on that in his little house in Royal, and there were some pretty prominent names that were mentioned. Just a question for CJ. Are we gonna get to the point we can get this straightened out? Because that's just not good for people to show up on a delinquent list, especially when they're in the business world. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for that question, Mr. Harper. So we've actually run into a number of issues with our collection process. Collector banks not providing documentation that we need, as well as some issues with software. Now, we've been able to figure out a number of those problems, and we've been able to correct them over the past week or so. But unfortunately, that was not in time for us to make sure that we met our deadline to actually have those things published before we actually request judgment. Now, just in the past couple of days, we've had a significant number of individuals get us the requisite documentation to have these things corrected. But before then, we had not heard from individuals. And as such, we didn't have any justification for saying, okay, we're not going to publish, because they had not provided any reasoning for why they hadn't paid. And I think that part of the issue comes back to this expectation that there's no responsibility on the actual property owner to know that their things have been paid. Some of the individuals that actually requested to be taken off, we found out later on that they had in fact not paid. So we're actually running into the issue of having to, unfortunately, in some cases, not just take someone's word for it. We have to have evidence before we actually remove these individuals. And if these individuals aren't being proactive when they see that they're listed as not having paid, then we're reacting to the fact that they've not done their duties as a property owner in making sure their stuff is showing up as paid on time. Now, there have been a number of issues with ACHs, owners not stopping their ACHs and things like that. And that has caused a significant number of headache for my staff and I. But either way, we have actually been correcting those things as we find them and as they're brought to our attention. But this expectation of us figuring out every single property owner situation is unrealistic. There has to be some responsibility on the owner to see what's going on with their parcel and contact us in enough time so that we don't actually put them on delinquent lists. Does that answer your question, or do you require more?
No, I just wanted to bring it up, and like as I said earlier, I know you got a mess in there that you came into, and thank you for your response.
You're welcome, sir.
Diane?
Yeah, just real quick, Ms. Johnson, do you think there'll be another round of notices maybe sent to the homeowners? The listing in the paper is great, but it's very difficult to read, and I didn't know if that was part of the plan, since some of this has to do with the software billing issue.
So there, in addition to the friendly reminders that we sent out a couple of weeks ago, whatever, certifieds actually were sent out. The certifieds are actually a requirement. We're statutorily required to send out those certifieds. And those were sent out after we sent out friendly reminders. So we've actually double tapped as far as, hey, you're late. Hey, you're late again, just to make sure that people had some time to kind of react and basically pay their bills, or let us know that, hey, it was paid, but for some reason we didn't get documentation, or in some cases, whatever, something was entered incorrectly, whatever the case may be. But that way we're able to figure it out before we get to tax sale, because the one thing that we don't want is a repeat of an insane number of sale and errors.
Thank you, ma'am.
So yes, so there is not anticipated to be another set of delinquent notices being sent out, Ms. Michaels.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I wanted to check, and I'm not sure which one to direct this to, the treasurer or the auditor, and get an update on 2020 bank recs to see that they're done. And so we can proceed on with that 2020 audit, see where we're at on that. An update, please.
Sure. I think we talked about this during the last meeting that, and I requested an additional 30 days to kind of work out the 2020 collector bank reconciliation. The 2020 reconciliations for the treasurer side for the county, those have been completed. The collector ones, which have like as I mentioned last time, a significant number of errors, are going to require a little bit more time, just because the way that things were processed with the newer system were probably it was not done the way that it should have been done, is what it comes down to. So there's a lot of research that's needing to be done and this is like an all staff requirement at this point, because there are just so many transactions that were entered incorrectly that we're having to basically do like a massive GI party to clean up the issues that they've actually created in the way that they input data. So as far as the collector recs are the only thing that's actually on hold as far as bank recs go for the audit, from my office's standpoint. As far as the other ones, those were completed by, I believe the auditor's office completed the 2020 prior to my taking over.
Thank you for the update.
George, did you have something to add?
No, I think I alluded at the September 30th legislative budget meetings that the treasurer would give her assessment at the committee of the whole, and if I had something to add, I'd do so at the county board in 9 days.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the elected officials? I don't see anybody, so we're moving on. Sheriff, intergovernmental agreement for his JAG program. This is one we do every year. Do I have a motion? I'm sorry, I heard somebody, but I couldn't hear who that was. Who was that? All right, maybe that wasn't. All right, I saw Jenny as a first, Jenny Luction, and Steve Summers as a second. Any comments? I believe the sheriff is here. Anybody has any questions of him? Seeing none, if the clerk could call the roll.
Vantage Therana,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Luction,
Yes.
McGuire,
Jim lost his internet. He's trying to get back on.
thank you. Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalacqua,
Yes.
Paul,
Yeah.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, the recommendation from the county executive to the county board to receive and place on file the fiscal year 2022 tentative budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Taylor.
All right, so moved Taylor, and then Beth, I saw as the second.
Second, yes.
Okay, Beth. And Beth, can you say your last name just so that I can pronounce it?
Vantage Theranot?
Vanish Theranot? Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
you
I
got
just
it.
want to make sure that I get it right. Vanish Theranot
Mhm.
as the second. All right, discussion. All right, seeing none, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Vantage Therana,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Luction,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalacqua,
Yes.
Paul, Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Just as a point of clarification, am I allowed to put that on consent? anybody know?
It would be better if it were voted on again at the full board meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought, so we'll keep that one off consent. The next thing is the other business semi-annual closed session minute review. Am I supposed to make a motion on this?
The motion would really be either whether you want to keep things, if you want to accept the recommendation to keep things closed, or if you want to open something.
All right, do you have a motion to keep closed the minutes in the semi-annual minute review? Mr. Patterson, was that a first?
I move to open the closed minutes of February 7th, 2008 and June 15th, 2010, and for all other closed session minutes to remain closed.
Okay, Diane, are you seconding that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Second, okay, discussion. And I think if we discuss this, we have to go into closed session. Seeing no desire to discuss, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Spinach Thiernot,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper, yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire, Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalakwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
All right, next up, chair's report. Oh, sorry, Diane, did you have other business?
Yeah, I apologize. I just saw that Jim was in the participants and now it looks like it might have been moved over. I apologize.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Mr. McGuire, did you have a comment?
Well, actually, I'm not sure where we are in the agenda right now because I lost internet connection.
Sure, we are on the other business. G.
So you moved the tentative budget?
Yes. Although
That was
I
something
will, if you have a comment on that, Jim, I'd be glad to I'll let you say your comment.
Well, I really kind of have a question about how it works because later in the agenda it talks about the resolution for 2 sheriffs. And I'd like to have that changed to 4. And obviously we're moving the budget before we're moving the resolution.
Okay, what I will say is that the
I mean, we just
did
changed the
agree.
budget.
I mean, Jim, we did agree to not put it on consent, even though it was unanimous.
Okay.
I mean, did you have a resolution to amend? Because I guess I'm
Yeah,
not
there's a
sure what you're at.
resolution. And if we're going to do that, we can wait for the resolution, but there's a resolution to hire an additional 2 deputies. And I'd like to change that to 4.
Okay.
But we'd have to discuss it there. I mean,
Okay, have you costed out, like, I mean, because I guess if you're talking about the budget, is there like a resolution you have about the budget itself?
Well, adding the 2 additional deputies impact the budget?
Yeah, but I mean, like, do you know what that would cost? I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is, are you asking to make a resolution to amend?
Yeah, when we get there, that's why I was, obviously we just got a bunch of HAVA money in the clerk's office and their budget had significant numbers of extra dollars in it for the election already, and that's almost 200 and some $1,000. So that would easily cover 2 more deputies. I mean, we're having this conversation when it could be at the resolution.
Okay. Darlene, did you want to speak to this? And then Stan, I just didn't know if Darlene had a response for this.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So At the last meeting, you approved a budget for the sheriff to have 2 more deputies. However, so we included 2 deputies in the budget for the upcoming year, but he did not need to ask for a budget amendment for this year because he has so many vacancies, he didn't need to do that. You've actually approved 2 more deputies in the budget already, but he needs an actual official resolution that says he has this number of deputies and he can go to this number of deputies. It's just an official formality for the number. So that's what this resolution is about at this time. If you want to change the amount he gets, that's, that would be under the resolution later, which is later in the conversation, but that's
Right.
why we're doing the resolution. It's not about the budget. It's about the number of deputies that he can have.
No, I understand that.
And then the thing about the clerks, since you brought that up, Jim, the thing about the clerk's budget, we agreed when we did the ARPA funding for different things that if the clerk got additional money from grants or other places, that they would come first in terms of expenses.
How would we know what that number is going to be? I mean, but even then, it's additional dollars for the budget.
Yeah, if you're accepting, he hasn't actually gotten the grant money yet, but that is the amount of the grant you've approved. And when he gets the money, he'll ask for a budget amendment to put that in.
Tammy, did you want to speak to that?
I just wanted to clarify that these 2 grants were already included in the budget. They're not in the general fund. They are in the county clerk's special revenue fund. And so the approval of these tonight really doesn't have any impact on the budget because, again, we already budgeted for those in fiscal year 2022 in Fund 628.
Right. We anticipate these are annual. The dollar amounts might wiggle around a little bit. And in the last few years, they've kind of wiggled up, to our benefit, but the amount this is in the budget. We just also have to accept the grants. So this wouldn't.
A discussion and a note that there's going to be a possibility of 4 deputies. And that was never brought up again, apparently. And now there's a resolution determining the number of additional sheriff's deputies. And there's no way to change the resolution. And obviously we should be able to discuss and amend the resolution.
Well, I mean, there's tonight.
That resolution should have came much earlier if that was going to be the process.
Okay, well, I mean, I will say we did discuss the budget, including the 2 deputies for the sheriff, I believe, 2 public defenders and somebody for the planning office.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the next time we've seen the budget since then. So we're going to vote on the budget tonight. We're going to vote on the budget at the end of October. We're going to vote on the budget again in November. So if you want to bring a resolution to amend the budget, any one of those times would be, but we would need an actual resolution.
There is a resolution. It's in the future on this agenda.
No.
The number of deputies.
So if you want an attendant to go with that, if you want if you want to do a resolution to
why don't we go to
budget.
that? Why don't we go to the let's go on through with the agenda, and when we get to the
Okay.
next resolution, since you voted, we'll discuss it then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Harper.
Well, the way I see this, and tell me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but isn't this just to place this, and it says tentative budget. We're
Right.
still not done figuring this out.
Right.
It's just to get placed on file so people can start
Right.
looking at our budget and make
Yeah.
recommendations to us.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. So we vote on the budget 3 separate times. We vote on it tonight, we vote on October, and then we have the final vote in November. So but I will say, and this is not just to Mr. McGuire, but this is to anybody on the board. If you want to change the budget, like if you have a resolution to change the budget for any purpose, you're gonna have to come with specificity on that, right? Like, you're going to have to come with numbers about what you're proposing. Because, Tammy puts a lot of work into this budget based on our conversation. So if we're going to change the budget in any substantial way, and this is for myself included, we would have to be very clear on what we're asking for that change to be. So again, we're going to see it 2 more times. We have 2 more opportunities, October and the end of October and November. And there's an example of this. If you remember last year, we added in a social worker for the sheriff's office. And I can't remember if we did that in October or November, but we brought a very specific amendment to the original budget, right? Mr. McGuire, did you have another question, or is your hand just still up?
No, I would like to go to the resolution and discuss it further.
Okay.
It is a tentative budget though, and I've seen people make comments during the discussion about what their expectation is for funding. And it was kind of written out on paper and wasn't complete. So I'm not sure that my suggestion would be that much less difficult, but anyway, we can move on to that if it'd be great.
Okay. All right. I don't have a chair's report and designation of items to be placed on the agenda. What I have, and Mr. Goss, tell me if this agrees with what you have, A1, 2, 3, and 4, B1 and 2, E1 and G1, and we're keeping F1 off. That seem right to everyone? All right, Kyle, back to you.
All right, and next on the agenda is Justice and Social Services. Chair Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Patterson. First off, we have the monthly reports for probation and court services, and then emergency management agency. Those are available on each department's webpage. Item B, we have the Rosecrans reentry financial report for August. That's information only. Item C, I am now blanking on how Stephanie did this, but we have the semi-annual closed session minute review, which was sent out, and I am just going with what they recommended. Kyle, go ahead.
I move to open the closed session minutes of November 25th, 1991, August 19th, 1994, September 6th, 1994, and May 5th, 2005, and for all other closed session minutes to remain closed.
Can I get a second?
Carter. Carter, second.
Leah? We might have lost Leah there. I'm going to take over until she comes back. Is there any, well, I guess we can't really discuss the closed sessions unless we're willing to go into closed session. So not seeing any hands, could we call the roll?
Kyle, could you clarify who seconded that?
Oh, it was definitely Carter.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Vantage Theranund? Yes. Carter? Cowart?
Cowart, yes.
As Furtado?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Yes.
Harper? King?
Yes.
Lakshin?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Pasalakwa?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Store?
Yes.
Straub?
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Sorry about my little blip there. Like most of us, I occasionally have the occasional internet problem. I do not have a chair's report. And the designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda is C1. Back to you, Mr. Patterson.
Kyle, could
Leah,
I
you
just,
you don't need to put the closed session minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, back to you, Kyle.
All right. Next on the agenda is the Policy, Personnel, and Appointments Committee, Chair Storr.
Thank you, Chair Patterson. The monthly HR report on page 79 to 89 lists, and I see that the sheriff is on. It looks like there's nearly 10 correction officer positions that are vacant, and a number of other vacancies. The under appointments and reappointments, we have 3, and if there's no objection, we'll take these omnibus. Resolution appointing Bill Roth to the Mount Olive Cemetery Association unexpired term ending June 30th, 2026. Resolution appointing Julie Smith to the Clemens Cemetery Association unexpired term ending June 30, 2027, and resolution appointing Joe Burke to the Lower Big Slough Drainage District unexpired term ending August 31st, 2024. Is there a second?
Michaels, second.
Thank you. Mr. Passalacqua, oh, did you?
All good.
Very good. Is there any discussion to the motion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Storr, could you clarify who the first was on that?
Okay, I think I believe I proposed that myself. I don't.
That was my,
Moved.
that was my hand store.
Thank you. Mr. Passalacqua moved.
Perfect.
And Ms. Michael second. Good save. All right. Yeah, I'm fumbling a little bit. Could the clerk please call the roll before I add further embarrassment here?
Vanich Theranot,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Coert,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshan,
Yes.
McGuire, McGuire, Michaels,
Yes.
Passalacqua,
Yes.
Paul, Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Next item of business is currently vacant appointments. And that would be for zoning board of appeals. We're still looking for people. And for the public aid appeals, looking for, I believe, a Republican or somebody in a rural area. The next item of business is B, resolution amending the number of authorized deputy sheriff positions for the Champaign County Sheriff. Can I have a motion for approval? Ms. Straub, and second, Jim McGuire. Discussion? Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. As we discussed a little earlier, this resolution includes the statement, additional 2 sheriff's deputies positions. Obviously, I'd like to change that to 4. That you can always see that the corrections officers are dropping and leaving. Their support for our criminal justice systems at pretty low ebb. We need to be able to support and have sheriff deputies also available. The Champaign has a problem with a number of deputies that are available. They do cross and work with each other in a lot of different areas. The shooting that happened in Rantoul, a deputy actually was the one that chased down those people that came back to Champaign and or Urbana, I should say, and the golf course and helped capture them. So that's why I think that this is with the crime wave that we're having, very important to support these deputies and to have the deputies, which we don't have the number that we should have anyway, in the budget and available. And obviously we're adding 2 deputies, so the cost would double. So whatever that would take to amend the budget to get those funds. And if the sheriff would like to make a comment, that'd be great.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So, yeah, so kind of listening to the conversation earlier and then right now, if there is any possibility whatsoever at all of adding 2 additional deputies in addition to this, my recommendation would to go ahead and amend it for 4 additional spots, knowing that if the 2 additional spots aren't funded, then I'm not going to be able to fill them anyways. And so it's kind of a which comes first type of thing. But I cannot, if the county board funds this 4 positions, but you only approve 2 additional positions, we'll have to come back with this resolution again for 2 additional positions. So I don't know what the privilege of the board is at this point, but the one thing I will point out is, and I absolutely 4 would be great. But the thing I want to point out is that the 108,000 or so for 2 deputies, that doesn't include fringes because fringes are on the county administrative end. And so that's not necessarily the increase you saw in my budget for 2 deputies is not the entire picture. Also for these 2 deputies, no appropriation for additional equipment was included in the fiscal year 22 budget. And I think I can make that work for 2 deputies, but I wouldn't be able to make it work for 4. And so, if we're really looking at 4 deputies, then what I would say down the road for a budget amendment would be about $242,000 is my very rough estimate of fringes, salaries at $54,000 each, and then equipment for 2 of the 4 deputies that would help to get that pressure off of my current fiscal year 22 budget. So I hope you say yes. I didn't know this was going to come up. I just figured the numbers in the last 10 minutes or so. But, you know, I just wanted to make sure to paint the entire picture for you all if you do decide to go down this route. And like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the 4 deputies in the resolution and then deciding later if you want to allocate that money for the additional deputies. It's just we've had a situation before where I tried to increase the number in advance for the budget, and then I was kind of reprimanded for not having the budget for those numbers yet. And so that's kind of why we went ahead and presented this resolution like it is, knowing that the at least 2 deputies are going to be approved in the fiscal year 22 budget.
Thank you, Sheriff Urban. Mr. Patterson.
So, To clarify, you said for 2 deputies, it's probably going to be about 242.
So Tammy probably doesn't have this number either, but we're looking at about $54,000 each for their salaries. For deputies, it's about 50% for fringe. And so that would put us at $162,000 for 2 deputies, including fringes. And then about $80,000 each once we talk about a vehicle and equipment and training and those types of things. And so that is the number to get a deputy hired and then on the road with all the equipment they would need. Would be the $242,000, and that's my rough estimate for 2 additional deputies.
And is so would that include all the equipment costs, like including a vehicle?
My rough estimate is yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Wait a minute, I thought you said the 242,000 would cover salaries, but an additional amount would be needed for equipment. Did I misunderstand?
No, and Tammy, you can chime in if you got this in front of you, but I'm just thinking back to budgets. My rough estimate for salaries and fringes would be 162,000 for 2 deputies. And then the additional for the 242,000 total would be everything for 2 deputies to outfit them, equipment, vehicles, everything like that. So 242 total, including the equipment, Chris.
Thank you. Ms. Michaels.
Just real quick, whether we do this now or later, I certainly would be in support of this. You know, even when we're at full staff, there is a lot of ground to cover within our county. And I know for the most part, everybody does help each other, but there's also special circumstances. And sometimes you need 2 deputies on the call or maybe 3. And so once again, whether we do this now or later, adding 4 versus 2, I think we need to really look at this. I would definitely support this however we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thanks. Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid dollar amount to what it seems like to me, feel like an shooting off the hip type process. So I'll be voting no to this amendment. I'm open to talking about it in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Furtado.
I will point out that, so I strongly would suggest that the intention of the staffing chart and the reason that we allocate the number of deputies has been in the past and should continue to be tied to the budget. So we should not, we have a special responsibility specifically with deputies to vote for that staffing allocation in a way that we don't with other staff. That is not required in the same kind of way for other staff. So if you are considering voting for 4, and we can do this every year, right? Like we vote on that allocation, the staffing allocation every year. So if you are considering voting for this, I would strongly suggest you only do that if you're considering amending the budget. I will go on to say that while it would be nice to fund, everything at the level that we'd want to in this county, we just simply don't. It's 162,000 recurring costs. Why we suggested 2 is because that was the amount of money we had looking at all of the different things we had to do in the county that we were able to do, right? Maybe there'll be some more flexibility in the future. If you recall, we allocated $700,000 to public safety sales from public safety sales tax this year in the budget that we just filed. And the intention of that is to put that towards housing people out of county. And I will remind everyone that that's not enough money to house everyone that we'd like to. And that's something that we're looking at doing for 2022 and 2023. So if we are going to go down this road, we would definitely be taking it from fund balance.
And so my suggestion is we do the 2 that we've allocated in the budget because that's the money we had. And then once we have more capacity on public safety sales tax, we revisit this in the future. That is, I think that's the best financial decision. That's not to say that this isn't a need, but I would say that I would not be comfortable with increasing. I would say this, if you are going to vote to increase the deputies, then I would expect that you're also going to vote to increase the budget. I do not like the idea of decoupling those 2 things. I don't think that's fair to Dustin. Like, why would we give him an org chart without the money to fill the org chart? I don't think that that's fair to the sheriff's office. I don't think that's good practice. I think we should leave it how it is. Again, that's just my opinion. That isn't to say that this isn't a worthy need, but just looking at the financial reality that we're in, I think that has to be part of the equation.
Thank you, Ms. Furtado. Mr. Patterson.
Thanks. So we've been discussing the budget for quite a while now. We've had multiple meetings on it. We've passed guidance for administrative staff. And in that period, I sort of think of that as the period where we were focused on nouns. We were focused on, specifically what we would like to see in the budget in terms of concepts, not necessarily dollar amounts. And this concept hasn't been brought up along that way. And at this point, we are entering into the more numbers-based aspect of the budget, meaning that the numbers, our administrative staff, particularly Tammy, have put the numbers together. And what's difficult is when you want to change a budget line, it's not as simple as just changing a budget line. You need to know where the funding is coming from, where you're going to take it away from. It gets a lot more complicated. And also in this scenario, we don't know what we may be taking money away from to fund something like this, because this isn't a cheap expenditure. And I think that these are conversations that need to be had before this moment. This isn't the idea for pushing this. It's not based on new information we just found out. This is something that if you supported today, you should have supported last month as well. And that discussion wasn't had, and it makes it harder on everyone when we don't reach out to the department heads, when we don't communicate with staff, and we bring stuff up last second at meetings like this. This is something that, I'm sure that we could have, incorporated into the budget process has been going on, but bringing it up last second like this makes it much more difficult to do stuff like that. So I really just encourage board members to be proactive on reaching out to staff and reaching out to department heads. And I just don't feel comfortable sort of this late in the process looking at such a large bonus expenditure. And also, like Stephanie said, the idea of essentially creating an organizational chart that features 2 unfunded positions in the tune of about $250,000 just is not fiscally responsible.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Passalacqua hasn't had a chance to weigh in.
Thank you very much. I understand that it's difficult. The community is very fluid. Things get worse every day. I would support making the changes we need to make to the budget, as well as making the changes from 2 to 4. We've done a lot of things last minute. We can put our heads together. We can figure it out. When we give more to one area, we have to take from another. I'm sure that we could hash this out. But I do appreciate that it's a little late in the process, but I do think it's necessary to support Dustin and the sheriff's office. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Passalacqua. Ms. Furtado.
I just forgot to take my hand down.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Mr. McGuire. Okay.
Brad is supporting it. It hasn't had a second yet. But this is not the first time I
Oh,
brought this
wait
up.
wait a minute, we haven't had a resolution. Or,
I made an amendment. I'm talking about in a second for my amendment. But the reality is this is not the first time this has been brought up. But as I said when I started my comments, I suggested for a long time ago. This is tentative budget. As people have said, we're going to bring this up a couple more times. And I don't understand why this isn't and has always been a top priority of this county. The justice system, keeping the public safe, is one of our biggest responsibilities. And somehow it's getting pushed down in the budget and not supported when we're short corrections officers and people are leaving because we don't, those people that are on the front lines don't feel like they wanted to be here. We can do it either way as far as adding the 2 people, and there's always openings in staff so that in 3 months or 2 months, when we need more deputies on the road, because the continuing public safety problem gets larger because we aren't addressing it, the spots are there. But we should fund it in the budget. It should have been funded first. It should have been the top priority, like the courts and everything else. But we have 1,000 other things we talked about first. Nobody had a problem talking about the social issues. Nobody had a problem expanding the clerk's office, except for some of the lines I obviously we have funding for now. So we should be able to find the money to take care of what is our responsibility to support the deputies that are on the road for the hard work that they're doing and the risks that they take. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Lokshin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. This is definitely the first time I've heard of this discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like it's the first time Sheriff Harmon had heard of it too, having had to pull together numbers quickly like he did. And I appreciate that there may be a need, but I feel like this is very, very last minute, and I feel like the numbers are not there. Nobody has done any research to back this up, and it's just very late in the game. I wouldn't support the amendment. I definitely would support discussing this in the future if there's a need.
Thank you, Ms. Lokshin. Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, real quickly, there's a suggestion made that this county board's not been supportive of particularly the sheriff's department. And I just want to remind my colleagues that we passed sign-on bonuses for correction officers to address the shortfall in corrections officers. We also supported spending, 6 figures on relocating the inmates that are in the downtown jail to create a more safe environment for the corrections officers. And we've also formed a special committee to take on the task of coming up with solutions for the downtown jail situation to create a safer environment for the corrections officers that work there. So I just wanted that to go onto the record.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. I just want to echo what Jenny and Kyle both said. They kind of took the words out of my mouth. I feel like this, I haven't heard of this either until today. Apparently the sheriff hadn't either. I do not support this amendment at all, and I will be voting no.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Furtado.
To add to what Kyle said, we also supported every single ARPA request of the sheriff for equipment in its entirety, as well as with only Democratic votes, $750,000 for bonuses for these very people that we're talking about, for all of our staff, but with a clear indication that the proposal was like on an 8-to-1 ratio. that that money would be going to these very people in bonuses. So again, I would echo what Kyle said. The idea that we haven't been supporting the sheriff, and I think since I've been on this board, Mr. Harper has been talking about getting more deputies, and we got 2. And like in a perfect world, there's a lot of things I'd like to do in this county. But I think we got 2. We have a clear path forward with the jail. We got signing bonuses, and hopefully if we get everything worked out with the unions and everything, actual bonuses. I think we're making good strides. Are we where we need to be with any of this? No, but I think we're making good strides, and we're gonna get the sheriff some real key pieces of equipment that he needs in order to do his operation, to the tune of, I think it's about $1 million in this next budget through ARPA funding. So I just wanted to echo that sentiment.
Thank you, Dr. Furtado. Mr. Summers, you haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Sure. Just adding to a few of the comments by my colleagues, and Member Furtado spoke to the hopeful addition of bonuses that will go predominantly to our law enforcement 24-hour county employees. I will note that to this point has been passed only by Democratic votes. If Mr. McGuire would like to put forward a full-fledged resolution that would indicate where these dollars would come from, I would be happy to look at that and consider it at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Mr. Harper, you haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Stephanie hit it on the nose. She knows where I come on this. I would love to see 4 deputies, but it's got to work in the budget. I'm no numbers and stuff. And I think as of right now, if there's a possibility through Dustin and Tammy to find another 242,000 plus the 242,000, that'd be great. But I understand if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But this is something that should be looked at the following year, because let's face it, in the rural area, we don't have anybody else but the county. I mean, it's our deputies and Dustin taking care of all of us out here. So I completely understand if the extra money isn't there this year to add 4. It's a step forward, getting 2. And we look for 2 more next year possibly. So that's kind of where I stand. I will support 4, but if we can find the money.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Jim, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Obviously, I remember things much differently about the discussion we had before, and the sheriff's comments, which were pretty much the same that they are tonight. He doesn't expect it. The deputies don't expect support. The COs don't expect the support. The jail is needed. We need to move people out of the county because we haven't fulfilled our responsibility to take care of the jail or to consolidate the jail. And it's the last thing on this board's mind to support criminal justice and the sheriff and deputy. It should have been one of the first things in the budget, should have been discussed, but we didn't want to discuss it. We didn't want to make the space. We had a lot of other issues that we'd rather support. And again, make the space for the 4. We can find the money in the budget. If we want to fulfill what is our responsibility as a county to provide the courts and the sheriff's office, and it's one of the only things that we are mandated to do. So those are my last comments. If you don't want to fund it, if you don't want to properly support our deputies, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Ms. Taylor.
I don't know how relevant this is anymore, but my cat is reminding me that it's almost dinner time, so I would like to call the question.
I am a little bit at loose ends here because I don't quite remember that there was a resolution. Could the clerk read the resolution if there is one?
There has not been a motion to amend or a second that was officially said.
That was my recollection as well. We've had a lot of discussion and there's been no motion made. Seeing no further hands up, I'd like to, well, I was mistaken. Mr. Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Stoller. I'm sorry about that. Through the conversations, I know it won't get passed, but I will make the recommendation to go to 4 deputies.
Okay, so is that a formal motion then?
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Does the motion have a second? Mr. Passalacqua?
I would second the motion and hope that we could find funds in the budget.
Well, thank you, Mr. Passalacqua. We have a motion and a second and a hope that we can find the funds to pay for it. Is there a discussion to the motion or to the amendment? Ms. Furtado?
Yes. Can Tammy, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're on the call still, I don't know if you are, sorry, my screen. Oh, I see you in the middle. Tammy, do you know how much our budget is, how much surplus we have in the budget we just forwarded? I know it's a very small dollar amount.
So if you remember, we're actually drawing on fund balance to do the $3.75 million transfer to capital. So if you take that out of consideration, the revenue surplus is $2,161.
Yeah, so $2,161. I just want to, as finance chair, I just want to say this, and I get that I do think that budgets are fluid things, and I think that it's okay to talk about the budget right up until we vote that final vote. That said, when we put the social worker in the sheriff's office last year, in the lead up to that, we had, I think I was part of 7 different concrete meetings or long phone calls about that. It was identified what the dollar amount would be, working very closely with the sheriff and also RPC, who had done that. And then also working with Tammy and Executive Kloppel on the exact place where that would come from, where we were funding that from. And so I think that I just want to sort of, while I do think it is okay to continue to talk about the budget, and that's why it's a living document up until we take that final vote. If we're going to suggest changes to the budget, it's very important that we come to them with as much specificity as possible, and that it's very clear where we're suggesting that money would come from. So in this case, I don't see how it wouldn't come from fund balance. Because if it didn't come from fund balance, you would need to suggest specifically where you're trying to take that money from, right? So that sort of process is hard, right? But that is the process that would need to be taken. And again, for me, if we were not housing people out of the downtown jail, that would be we would be having a different conversation, because we have a public safety sales tax surplus right now, but we are. And what we know, the money that we put into the 2022 budget isn't going to be enough to cover that expenditure right now. And that we very likely will have to come back in the late summer and revisit that question from fund balance.
And that is also something that might be going into 2023. So I just want us to keep that in mind, that there is this sort of hit on the public safety sales tax that is not a forever hit, right? There is a light at the end of the tunnel of that, but I do think we need to sort of keep in mind the reality of where we are.
Thank you, Ms. Furtado. Okay. Would the clerk please read the resolution to amend the motion for item 9B?
I'm sorry, what is it that you need me to read?
We have a motion to make an amendment to item 9B. And I think it'd be worthwhile to repeat the amendment so that people know what they're voting on.
Yes, sorry. That motion was to amend the resolution from 2 deputies to 4 deputies.
Thank you. Seeing no further hands raised or indications for further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll for the amendment?
Vanich Theranot?
No.
Carter?
No.
Cowart?
No.
Furtado?
No.
Goss?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
King? King?
No.
Lakshan?
No.
McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Sorry, yes.
Passalaqua?
Yes.
Paul?
No.
Rodriguez?
Nope.
Store?
No.
Straub?
No.
Summers?
No.
Taylor?
No.
Thorsland?
No.
Patterson?
No.
The motion fails. Like to, we return to the original motion to amending the number of authorized deputy sheriff positions for the Champaign County Sheriff, which in the resolution says would add 2. Discussion, Mr. Thorsland.
I'm just making the motion.
And I was seconding if needed.
I'm having a leg cramp. Somebody take the meeting, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I got it, Chris. Just make sure you mute. And was that Mrs. Lakshan with the second? All right, is there any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Vanich Theranot?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Lakshan?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Passalaqua?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Store?
Yes, but I'm gonna have to, please, I'm gonna have to cease the chair, this for a little bit. Thank you.
Straub?
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor, Taylor, Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes. All right, the next item is D1. We have the proposed maps for 2021 reapportionment plan. This is a discussion only item. Does anybody have any?
Kyle, you skipped C1 and 2.
I was just making sure you guys are paying attention. Yeah, we have the monthly report from the county clerk. And we also have a request for job evaluation content committee to review the new election specialist position. Does anybody have any discussion? All right, or actually, I think I needed a motion for a request. Ms. Furtado, Mr. Thorsland. All right, now is there any discussion of the item? Seeing none, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Vantage Theranon,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Coer,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
No.
King,
Yes.
Lakshan,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pesalakwa,
No.
Paul,
No.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Store,
I'm sorry, what is the item we're voting on? I'm still having the cramp.
It's the job content or job evaluation content committee request for the county clerks.
I vote in favor. Thank you.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes. All right. Now the next agenda item is the proposed maps for 2021 reapportionment plan. Is there any discussion?
I just have one quick question, Kyle. When are we actually voting on these? That's my only question.
I mean, my understanding, and maybe Darlene could clarify if I'm wrong, but I believe that the plan is to vote on these at the county board meeting this month. Darlene, was that your mindset?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah, so it's essentially the same general timeline that we had previously done as far as voting on it at the county board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Goss?
Thank you. I just would like to say that I support Equity Map 3. I'm not thrilled with it, but if I look at it versus what they're calling Equity Map 4, Equity Map 4, for instance, in District 3, that's 300, well, it's 388 by my calculations, pretty much close to 400 square miles for one district that covers at least 5 school districts, at least 10 and probably 12 townships. It's just too large. It's too large for somebody to be effective as a county board member. I realize it's by population, and so I think the other map is closer in population, or it's close enough in population. I mean, there's not a huge variance there. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Mr. Thorsland?
Yeah, I'm in support of the Equity Map 4. If we talk about population variation, you can't get much closer the population variation in that one is 4 people between districts. I understand Mr. Goss's worry about a large district. It's not just one representative. Each district has 2, actually. So 2 people would be doing that. Just from some personal experience, I once ran for an office that had 33 counties in it, and it was quite large, but you could still get around and talk to people. So 10 years ago, we went through this process, and one of the things that was brought up often by the panel that was put together for it and chaired by Mr. Winkle was the idea of getting the population as close as possible in each district. And again, Equity Map 4 is maybe called Equity Map 4 because that's the deviation between all of them. It's 4. So I think that hands down that one's probably the best one for population balance.
Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Kyle. I think would be considered an equity in the ability for those county board members to cover that territory that other areas wouldn't have to be responsible for. It's sad that the rural areas are losing county board members and representation, which is a loss of equity. They're being compressed into the cities to give the Democrats a greater number of voters by percentage in each of the districts, so you can control more county board districts. That's an inequity. It's not representing the public, it's representing your partisan agenda. I suppose that's what happens when you lose an election, but it doesn't have to be that way in practice. Mr. Williams said that's what you should do. Obviously, that's what you're trying to do and are going to do to try to give yourself an edge in the election. Don't call it equity. It's not. It's not equitable for the public. It's not equitable for the rural areas. It's only equitable for you. Thank you.
Mr. Harper.
Well, thank you, Kyle. As a lot of you know, I can be a little sarcastic sometimes, and I'm going to be sarcastic right now. We talk about equity, we talk about minority responsibility, and I believe everybody should have the opportunity to represent their people. But I guess I'm probably the minority. I'm the only full-time farmer on this board, with Champaign County largest economic driver is agriculture. Now, yes, District 3 is my district, 388 miles, and I know a lot of people around the county. But it is a shame. What Mr. McGuire just said, our rural people are not getting equitable representation. I've said for several years, I've told people, there's too many people on this county board that should be running for the city councils in Champaign-Urbana. They have millions and millions of dollar budgets and this and that, and they're getting ARPA money. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility, Republican, Democrat, Independent out here, is to do what my communities need. We've just discussed the Sangamon Water Valley. You have people contaminated wells there. The little village of St. Joe has septic and drainage issues. Philo mayor I've talked with, who is a Democrat. They need septic work down there. In fact, they need the septic system. They have the ability, if they can find money, to pipe it to CU Sanitary, because they do not have a treatment plant in Philo. Throw the politics out, guys. Represent your people and remember what built this county, agriculture. What built this university, agriculture, research, engineering, business. We're not doing that. I know it's what Eric just said, the population. Yeah, we don't have the population anymore. But give us some, give us a representation. On a light side, 388 miles, and Mr. Summers will enjoy this. There's a lot of taverns to stop at between here and my house. I'll end that conversation. Thank you.
Mr. Pasalakwa.
I would just like to comment that many times on this board, the words underserved comes up, and that is what the rural districts are. The city districts have duplicate services with the sheriff and their local police, duplicate infrastructure. You know, in the county, we have only the county services. And then to make these districts huge, yes, they have 2 representatives, but so do the small districts. I think the geographical size is it's overdone. But I would just, like I said, I just want to remind everyone when they make comments about underserved, that definitely applies in the county. And I just want to leave you with that. I appreciate it.
All right, does anybody else have any comments? All right, seeing none, I'm actually going to, if you'll accept it, for the next item is the semi-annual closed session minute review. I actually have the motion, but I can't do that as chair. Actually, I can.
Kyle, yeah, my doggone muscle spasms in both legs. I did a good job. Have subsided for the moment. If you'd like, I'll resume.
Perfect timing. Now you should call on me.
Excellent. We call on Chair Kyle Patterson with regard to item number E, semi-annual closed minute review.
I move to open the closed session minutes of July 14th, 1998, September 21st, 2004, June 8th, 2005, October 5th, 2005, and May 8th, 2012, number 2, and for all other closed session minutes to remain closed.
I'd like to
We'll hear a second. Ms. Michaels,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Is there a discussion to the motion? Seeing no hands raised and no voices, would the clerk please call the roll?
Manage Therna,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart, Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalakwa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorslin,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Very good. There's no chair's report. Designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda include items number 9, sub 2, A, B, and C. I missed the final vote on item B, the resolution for the authorization of deputy sheriff positions for the Champaign County Sheriff. Did that pass unanimously or was that contested?
That was unanimous.
Thank you. So that'll be number B. and, excuse me, 9A to ABC, 9B, and 9E. I did items 2C, job evaluation content committee for the new election specialist. Was that contested or did that pass unanimously?
That doesn't need to go forward to the county board. It's going to the job content committee.
Well, there you go. Okay, there you have it, 9A to ABC, 9B, and 9E. Gosh, somehow managed to get through that. There's no chair's report, no other business. Mr. Patterson, I think the board is going to be breathe a sigh of relief that this is going back to you.
Oh, we enjoy you, Chris. There's no other business. And seeing, oh, Mr. Harper, you have a hand raised?
Yes, I do, Kyle. Have you or Darlene discussed the idea if everybody would wear a mask to meeting, getting back into Brookings? Just these Zoom meetings are pain.
Looks like Darlene stepped off. From the discussion in our agenda setting meeting, Darlene indicated that she intended for this to be the last in-person or the last remote meeting. So starting with next week's county board, I believe her intention is for that to be in person. And I will remind that the current emergency order by the governor is that there is a requirement that for anybody vaccinated or unvaccinated who is indoor in a public place must wear a mask. There's no exemption for social distancing or 6 feet separation. So the expectation is if we're meeting in person, masks must be worn by everyone the whole time, unless you're under the age of 2.
Okay, thanks. That's all I want. I mean, I hope we can get back into Brookings. That's all I was asking.
All right, is there anybody else, any other business? All right, Mr. Vasilakwa.
Mr. Stork, I have 2 words. Magnesium and calcium.
Thank you. I know you probably suffered or know about these in your work. Magnesium and calcium and Gatorade for me. Thank you.
All right, y'all, make sure you stay hydrated. Call this meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Thanks, Kyle. Good night.